Okay, I got a blackworm update for everyone after propagation. And we got all of the blackworms out by floating the knitting mesh on top. It took about 4 days after dropping the oxygen, and I actually had to bait the mesh. They're very food driven and they won't leave the substrate if food is still available. So after segmentation, all the worms have been put back. This is the first culture. They're looking incredible. It is about double the amount of worms that we started with. I wasn't going to weigh them, but I did weigh one of the cultures because I was very curious, and it weighed 1.78 grams. So it is explosive growth. The only major difference in this culture from the last experiment we did was the stones and inoculating the mature mulm instead of just placing immature mulm in. We inoculated it with the correct microbial loop first. If you want to see how that process works, go ahead and check out the bioflock videos. There's a whole playlist on exactly how you can make it yourself. It's pretty much instead of taking the mulm out of a tank and putting it right in the blackworm culture, I'm putting it in a container first, aerating it for about 2 days, and adding a carbon source like molasses. If you notice the mulm that I'm putting in, it's very fluffy and brown. It definitely has a different texture than it did in the prior experiment. I haven't seen any erratic behavior since the first 2 weeks, and as soon as I put in the mature mulm, the erratic behavior stopped immediately. I think the microbial loop is our limit on blackworms. We can only keep as many blackworms as we have microbes to support them. My cultures self-regulate all the time. If it gets overpopulated, a lot of them die and you won't even notice. There's only so many worms you can keep in a culture. And we have another wrench to throw in this puzzle. Look really closely and see if you see something odd. There are all these other little tiny clear worms that have been produced in the biofloc reactor because of the abundance of available food and microbes. This could be pointing to the fact why they're not acting erratic. There's plenty of food right in front of them. These worms have a life cycle. They do not stay alive constantly. As soon as they die, they become a high protein food source for the blackworms and the whole microbial loop. I have another culture that I've been feeding extremely heavy to, and the results are Daphne are popping up, seed shrimp are popping up, all kinds of little organisms are abundant in this culture. They are all additional blackworm food. It seems that's the biggest limitation with blackworms. You have to feed them enough or they will wither away. And in order to feed them enough, you have to have the correct amount of the microbial loop, or that can be extremely dangerous to feed that much high protein. But now we're feeding live high protein, just like feeding fish live food. They're not disintegrating and starting to decay the minute you put them in the water. I don't think that these worms are taking away food from the blackworms because these worms are becoming blackworm food. So I don't think this is a hindrance on our experiment. I think this may be adding to the growth that we are seeing.